there was no powerful figure depicted in their sort of like remnants left behind.
Yeah.
And this podcast was like, we don't really know what this means. And I was like, I think it means communism. I think you found communists and like something eradicated them, and we got unlucky with the rest of civilization.
Do I have spinach in my teeth?
I can't see because your preview is way too small. You have to check on Twitch.
You know what? I think I look good.
What is it? What's the Garfield thing? You don't hate Mondays, you just hate capitalism.
Is there such a Garfield strip?
Yeah, you don't hate Mondays. I think it was popped on Garfield, since Garfield hates Mondays.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I kind of wonder.
Move.
I'm not going to defend capitalism for like too much, but I kind of wonder if capitalism gets blamed for too many things. Right. I don't think exploitation started with it.
No, I was just listening to a really interesting podcast
Yeah.
where the British Museum is doing a history of the world in 100 objects that they have in their collection, and they kind of acknowledge at the start, they're like, yeah, we know we stole these.
But we're not going to give them back.
But we're not going to.
That would be ridiculous.
But instead, we're going to talk. We're going to say we stole them, and then we'll talk to you about them.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things is that they started going through, like, they got to like the first cities, and they pulled out this like ancient Sumerian plaque with like an engraving on it, and they're like, this is the world's first political cartoon from 5,000 years ago, where we figured out that humans always need to, like, humans organize in power structures that are exploitative, like, from the get-go. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not very hopeful at all.
Jared Diamond.
Yes.
Guns, Germs, and Steel. Like, I find him a little. His explanations are a little bit too pat and neat, but he once advanced the thesis that it was agriculture that was the introduction of surplus, and therefore the introduction of exploitation as a result. Because once you have surplus, you can redistribute it upwards, basically.
Yeah, this posed a very similar theory where it was like the notion, the minute you wanted something that you couldn't grow yourself, like when you wanted a crop from your neighbor and you introduced trade into the picture, the whole thing just. But there was actually, there was a hopeful note in there, because they talked about this thing I had no idea about, which was the lost civilization of the Indus Valley.
Okay.
And we haven't translated their writing yet. We don't actually know what their deal was. But it's a historical civilization without any of the markers of capitalism. And we don't really know where they went or why they're gone.
What does capitalism mean by that definition? I'm curious. Currency?
Yeah, there's not a marker of currency. There is like trading, but they also didn't find like rule by a king or president, or sort of like, there was no powerful figure depicted in their sort of like remnants left behind.
Yeah.
And this podcast was like, we don't really know what this means. And I was like, I think it means communism. I think you found communists. and like something eradicated them, and we got unlucky with the rest of civilization.
Do I have spinach in my teeth?
I can't see because your preview is way too small. You have to check on Twitch.
You know what? I think I look good. I'm looking at myself.
Great.
Big talking heads view.
Oh, you got the big view. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know how to make the video bigger on my side.
Oh, yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah, it's just weird little Zoom thumbnails.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I have fantasies of the secret communist civilization of the Indus Valley now. So
that's really interesting. How long ago is this?
Like 5,000 years.
Okay, so it's like the first pyramids. Like,
yeah, it was contemporaneous with like with the Nile and with Ur and Sumeria.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just in India. And they think actually that the river that they depended on jumped its course. And so the whole civilization kind of got wiped out by climate change, basically.
I wonder if it was a flood. Like, how there's all these like kind of like, antediluvian society. Like there's a flood myth for like across a bunch of the ancient societies.
Mm-hmm. Well,
maybe it's just because they all had floods. I mean, that's probably
everyone had floods. Well, this is like a real New Orleans problem where every once in a while the river tries to jump course, and we like have put monumental effort into making it like stay where it is.
Yeah.
But like every year, we're like one really good flood away from getting totally wiped out.
New Orleans.
Well, it our not the city, but like our water supply
Oh, yeah.
would go somewhere else, and then the whole city can't be there, which is really weird.
Yeah. Yeah. You weren't there during Katrina, right?
No, that's my first week of college.
Yeah, that's right. We talked about this.
Yeah, that was a weird old time.
Um, Speaking of communism, capitalism, did you beat Disco Elysium yet?
No, not yet. I had a video game lull. Did you beat it?
No, I
Okay,
I got into it. I think I'm at the top of the third day.
nice. Yeah, yeah. I'm in the third day right now.
Okay, yeah, and I'm pretty continuously doing stuff, so I was able to explore most of the new area that opens up
Nice.
on the third
Yeah.
day.
Hmm.
I didn't go into the church yet though. Like I had didn't have time to like explore it fully.
Yeah, that's weird. I also didn't go to the church. I was like, that looks like a plot place, and I'm not going to do that yet.
Oh yeah, yeah. And yeah, I've had a chance to really sink my teeth into the game.
What do you
Uh,
think so far?
uh, the writing is incredible.
Yeah.
Um, it is as creative a storytelling piece in video games that I've seen. I would
Hmm.
say, and probably the most creative, like by a pretty tremendous distance. I'd say
Yeah,
it's yeah,
and it's like one of the few video game experiences where like I actually have an interest in the story going on too. Like that's a really hard thing to grab with interactive medium, and like they really nailed it.
yeah. Um, and so I would say nothing else matters besides the voice acting. I would say, and the
Mhm.
music. I think those things together, maybe the graphics as well, just the art design is I think is quite good.
I love the weird art style that is like someone drunkenly made an oil painting.
Yes.
Is just like perfect for it because like the entire world has that sort of like hazy hangover vibe no matter what you do.
Yeah. Um, I think as a game, it's not
Mhm.
very good, right?
Oh.
I think that like it's purely as the sort of gripping and playable movie. I think it's fantastic.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I think like the gameplay is interesting but very flawed.
Hmm.
Um, the fact that it's so easy to save scum in that game feels kind of. I guess I could just tell myself not to do it, but it also feels like the game kind of wants me to. Like when I can fail a 97% roll, it just feels a little bit weird.
A little strange, right? Yeah, 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 yeah. I
And
wonder, the red checks, the unretriable ones really scare me. I'm like pretty willing to fail the retriable ones.
yeah,
It's usually funny.
it's usually funny, but yeah, I guess they're trying to get you used to the idea of the main character being a total fuck up.
Hmm.
And it is really really funny, but yet at the same time there's this tension of you wanting to move forward and actually do stuff.
Hmm.
And the game can be really really slow if you fail one of those checks, right? And it can really put you off for a while, and you might not have anything to
Yep.
do if you don't succeed the check.
Yep.
Um, so in that regard, I think it's weird the fact that you don't know what the traits do until you've or the thought cabinet traits. You don't know what they do until you've internalized them. It's
Yeah.
not like it's exciting to find out, right? It's just like just tell me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd rather know what happens after
Exactly.
6 hours of game time. Yeah, 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 totally. I have Googled some of those because I'm like, I really don't want to like waste a skill point breaking my character right
I
now.
think that's the
Like,
only thing I've Googled so far.
yeah.
And I Googled how to use the ammonia to take the body down because that was terrible. Like you had to like,
What?
yeah, you get the ammonia and then there's no way to use it. So you have to go back to the body and choose a thing that you'd already chosen before. And
Why? How did you get ammonia?
oh, okay, so you had some other way of getting the body down then, right?
Yeah, I had to kowtow to the Union.
But
My guy
like
is not very
didn't your
smart.
guy like not even be able to like do the field autopsy? Not the first examination while the body's still hanging there.
Oh, no, I passed whatever check that was.
Oh, okay, so do you have like a high composure score or whatever
I
it
have a
is?
high composure. Yeah, I picked a high composure, which I
Okay,
like.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you kind of bumble your way through. You seem really cool while you're doing everything very badly. It's
If
worked
you
out pretty
don't,
well for
yeah,
me.
if you don't do that, you have to get ammonia from the gardener. And there's
Gotcha.
no way to know how to use that. So there's always that kind of like wonky. It wants to be an adventure game, but it
Hmm.
isn't.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like made by someone who saw Escape from Monkey Island,
but
like
but like
out of the corner of their
out of
eye.
the corner of their eye, but actually played like a Baldur's Gate
Yeah,
era like RPG.
yeah, totally.
Um,
I'm sure
and,
they played the heck out of Monkey Island actually, but like, yeah, it feels like that.
and so it's interesting, but it has the sense of randomness
Hmm.
that I think more modern adventure games. When I say more modern, I'm talking about adventure games from like 1998 and beyond.
Yeah,
Like that
exactly.
more modern adventure games kind of learn to weed out, but I still think
Mm.
that Disco Elysium has a little bit of this random feel to it. Um, but again, none of it matters because just the writing is so good.
It's really good. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious, sort of what actual choices and paths and things will be like closed out to me, and what choices will affect things as I go forward. 'Cause it's really unclear, but it does feel like it's sort of like built up a fairly complex little web.
Yeah, I'm slightly worried about that. I'm
Hmm.
slightly worried about if there are things that have unknown consequences, but they don't feel like
Connected. Yeah.
connected. Yeah, like for example, like I internalized advanced race theory,
Oh no,
because
that one was clearly become a racist. No.
but it's not clear what that means, right? Because otherwise you had to like fight the guy, right?
I fought him. I punched him.
Yeah. Um, well, my character doesn't have very good fighting. Um, I basically picked the lowest physical stats. So, but like, does that mean my character's a racist, or does that just mean that like I went along with it, right? I don't
Yep,
know,
totally.
but there's probably going to be a moment in the game where it's like, oh, you're a racist. I'm kind of like
Hmm.
secretly afraid of that. Um,
Yeah, I mean, my partner, I think he thinks I'm like half a racist because I talked to that guy
yeah,
and like sort of got that out of him, but didn't. Since I didn't internalize it, maybe he's forgiven me. But like, yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
Kim is not happy with the advanced race theory. That's all I figured out.
right. Um, so there's kind of like it's not there's I'm a little bit worried that there's going to be stuff like that where it's like, oh,
Totally.
I made this random choice
Hmm.
and it has all these like unforeseen consequences, um, which I think is bad in games usually, right?
Mm.
Like the kind of what ludonarrative dissonance is kind of the
Yep.
name of it, where like you're given choices, but it's like also very scripted as well, so your choices don't necessarily mean very much, and those things come into tension a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I'm more afraid the entire thing is going to winnow down to like a binary decision at the end, like every other fucking narrative RPG that I've ever played,
Yeah,
where they throw out everything you've done to that point. And I don't. I've tried really hard not to know what the endings are because I'll be crushed and not actually finish it if I find out that that's what happens.
yeah. I mean, is this the kind of game you think you could play more than once, though?
I would absolutely consider. I would try starting it with a like smart instead of empathetic build just to see what happens.
Okay, yeah,
I would do like the polar opposite character and try, but that's about it. Yeah,
yeah. I
because right now Inland Empire just talks to me all the fucking time,
yeah, same.
and it's got to be a very different game if that's not like in your ear the whole thing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Um, yeah, I have a high logic or whatever the high brain and
Hmm.
high empathy because I just wanted like the person that could see everything and
Yep.
have a lot of dialogue options.
Nice.
Um, I think one thing that's a little bit weird to me is like the spontaneous political reactions that you can make.
It's
Um,
weird, right?
because I think the game has a very like it's clear like the writers have all like internalized like late 20th century left politics right in the history
Hmm.
of it like I think the writing team is Estonian. It's clear that they were like very much invoking like the experience of either Soviet republics or the birth of the Soviet Union itself, because like a lot of that experiment like was foreclosed because
Hmm.
after World War One, basically, like the Allies invaded Russia, right? Nobody ever really talks about that, right? But like they killed a lot
Wait,
of that.
we invaded Russia after World War One?
Yeah,
What?
it's the Reds versus the Whites.
So to be fair, I didn't know this. Oh, did we fuck with their civil war? That does make sense.
Yeah,
That's. I mean, what could be more American than this?
yeah, and I think they lost, but they also like they kind of forced the Soviet Union to go into even more of a kind of like militaristic
Yep.
structure, and a lot of the brightest people and most talented people in that political party were killed as a result of this. Um,
What I was to
and
say, when did Lenin leave the? Like, didn't Lenin end up
early
not being?
20s. I
Yeah, I
don't
was
even
gonna say.
think he survived past
I was
through
just after
through
after
this conflict.
1925. I thought Lenin's out of the picture, and
Yeah,
it, yeah,
by this point, yeah.
yeah, and then it goes to like just this rotating door of like worse and worse people. So like, yeah, we successfully kneecapped it over time for sure.
So the game has like it's almost astonishing the tone of the game. Like they're really able to capture that, but the kind of political takes that your character is able to, I don't know if they do this deliberately, but like they're cartoonish, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, because like your options are either like yes, give the worker all the power, or like money's really good. I think I'd like some money out of this.
yeah,
But
you're
like,
either
and
like
those are your two options.
you're either like American Psycho or like edgelord annoying freshman guy in your history class who's just spouting Marx at like it's holy writ. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's
I imagine that was because like had it been less cartoonish, it might have been really hard to actually pick a political compass to work with. Like it's basically they took the four alignment political compass and like put a dot in each corner, and they're like, you can move your character to one of those.
right. But the writing it's jarring because the writing is
Yeah.
otherwise incredibly sensitive.
Hmm.
Like, oh man, the whole dialogue with what's her name from the company, the negotiator.
Oh man, that is really
She's
great, right?
incredible, right? Like how
Yeah.
she's just like she's like the Ur neoliberal, right? Where she actually even is aware of her place in history,
Hmm.
and she's like, well, but I'm the worst of the worst, right? I'm the kind of but she's aware of that. She's like so accustomed to her own cynicism of her position,
Yep.
but she
Yeah.
believes that this is the only way, right? She believes it's like this is the end of history, right? This is the or like there's nothing to do. Like this is the position that I'm occupying because anything else would be foolish. And in a way, she's right, actually, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
if you were her, it's the option is to be her with her ideology on that boat, or be one of the fucking people in Martinez who are just like scraping by. You know what I mean?
Which is it? I mean, I know that, like along with the American Psycho and like annoying college Marxist dialogue options, there is the like centrist one, and it does it sound less cartoonish because it is just so like, well, I mean, yeah, that is real.
Yeah, the centrist one that I'm aware of is it's just I mean, and the one that's pronounced to me is the ambivalence. It's like I don't have an opinion on this. I don't know. You know
Mm-hmm,
what I mean?
hmm. Yeah.
Um, and that one I'm not sure what to make of, right?
Hmm.
Because like it's hard to play that game and like feel like you support the union in good conscience, right? Just because it's basically run as it's as exploitative as any other entity in the uh,
Hmm.
in the game. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah, though I enjoyed the like I guess I saw glimmers of like what I see in leftist spaces where it's like can't trust the cops, so like the Hardy Boys are their own sort of internal militia.
sure. Yeah.
Like I like that it sort of captured the like we have to protect ourselves
Yep.
mentality and the full ramifications of like where that path goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is just like it's very well they very well realized a thing. Uh, it's interesting.
Yeah, but it does kind of make me feel like the ultimate. I don't know. I think the ultimate ideology of that game is they believe like there is a glimmer of hope in the revolutionary ideology,
Hmm.
but the union that they created in that game is so deeply compromised to its
Yep.
core. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or at least I
I
haven't had a chance to really explore the Claire brothers, like their characters that much, but they're pretty dyed in the wool, like corrupt exploiters themselves. You know what I
Right.
mean?
They're like the Teamsters they warned you about, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I'm hoping. I won't. I can't say until I get further. But I'm really hoping that like I get to overthrow them as part of my workers' revolution.
yeah, you have to, right?
That
Because it's not
that would be the only
democratic, I don't
satisfying
think, right?
conclusion. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Well, and then there's like that scab outside who clearly was planted by someone
yeah.
with like a hidden agenda. I'm like, there's just a lot of fun threads to pull on.
So
It is a giant novel though, right?
if
It's
I
just a
had
big
to, yeah,
book.
if I had to speculate, I don't know. Like I actually haven't. I haven't really. I mean, I've all I've done is like taken the body down. That's like as far as
Mhm.
I've gone
Nice.
in terms of figuring things out. Um,
Oh, have you talked to the Hardy Boys yet?
I have talked to the Hardy Boys,
Okay.
and I've gotten to the point where they just like have admitted that
Yeah, they're
like,
just like we did kill that guy. Yeah, like that was us.
but it's like a cover up of something else.
Hmm.
Um, and so
Yep.
my theory is that the whole strike is a farce, right? The whole strike is like some kind of
Mm-hmm.
because like what they're demanding is like every single member of the union or every worker is part of the board, which is a ridiculous like
Yeah, their demands are preposterous, especially when like
yeah
the negotiator comes in and is like, we actually gave them everything they asked for last time.
yeah
So I feel like it hasn't the full details of yeah that machination hasn't unraveled.
right.
Yeah, I still just really like it. I can definitely see the it might not be a good game angle of that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the other interesting thing is that how do you feel about playing a police officer in this game? Isn't it very strange?
It's really strange, and I feel like I feel like the developers had that problem as well because they sort of go further to say like, oh, like we are the civilian government like sort of put us in charge and like they tried to like sort of say that like the people put us here and not the state in a couple places. Uh,
Do you think that the game believes in its role in the role of the police, the RCM?
it's a really good question. I
I
kind,
kind of think they do actually.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't think that they think that Kim is a patsy, right? Kim is like the
The,
most noble figure in the game, right? I think that's the
the
way.
game likes Kim more than anything else, as far as
Yes.
I can tell.
Yeah.
It's the only thing the game actually like enjoys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, it might be pro cop, which would be unfortunate, but like they are well, I guess I do have the option to punch a lot of people when they don't say something I like. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, the cops. To be fair, like cops as we know them in America are like quite specific to history, right?
Hmm.
And I guess you could argue that like cops are part and parcel of the capitalist state, but at the same time, I'm also I don't know if this is a cynical take, but like I think that to even have a state to begin with implies having a monopoly over violence, right? It implies having an
That's
accountable
exactly it. Yeah.
instrument for violence, and you cannot not have that, right?
Hmm.
If you don't have that, you basically have anarchy,
Yep.
right? You basically have the caricature libertarian world where everyone has their own guns, and it's basically might makes right on a micro level.
Hmm. It's funny because yeah, libertarianism is like what I think of as like pure chaos versus anarchy being a communal consensus
Okay,
driven
yeah, I
like
think that's what I meant.
process.
So I
Yeah.
think you're you're using better terminology than I am.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I think the other thing that's really interesting in this experience is how almost every character just walks up to you and says like "fuck the police," and I'm just like, well, yeah, kinda.
yeah.
I heard that like I saw that like if you fail your morale, if you like morale goes to zero, you just stop being a cop. Like that's the ending. You just like give up. You're like copying is pointless.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
I did die once, but it's because uh I
kick something too hard.
yeah, almost. Although like I basically save scum my way past a lot of the physical stuff. Um, I don't try to like save scum past like 3% things, you know.
Sure. Yeah, those are impossible, and I do fail those for fun most of the time.
Yeah. But I did die uh examining a document in that game, and I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't know why, but I think it's just the way that the game was written. I think that specific thing was written that way. Um,
Oh, is that you mean like you passed out reading your ledger?
yes, I don't know if you
Oh, yeah, I did. I don't think that was normal death. I think that was story death.
because it's like basically he learns a little bit too much about his previous life, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think that's like I think endgame is like your morale gets to zero and like walk away dejected from the thing.
but like it loaded my previous save after I went through that.
Oh. Interesting. I did that and I passed out and woke up in the street. So
Oh, okay, got it. I might have
maybe
maybe it did physical damage or something. Maybe I was like it did like
gotcha.
3 points of morale damage and I only had three or something like that. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah. I have failed enough physical checks that I got a thought cabinet thought that is anti-object task force. Uh that I think is just I get points for kicking things
Yeah,
that are inanimate, so I shouldn't kick that mailbox, I guess.
nice. Yeah. So, anyways, I think it's an incredible creation. Deeply, deeply flawed, but none of it
Hmm.
matters, right? I mean, it's still or it doesn't matter in terms of like how
Like
cool
how
I think it is, right?
yeah. Yeah, I mean the I kind of enjoy the alien experience too of like being thrust into a game where I don't understand everything immediately and versus like you pick up Horizon, you're like, cool, robot dinosaurs, but like I sure know how to work this entire system and like
Yeah,
understand every intricacy of like this giant, world. Versus this where you're just like, I don't know what these buttons are gonna do.
yeah.
So I think there's something to that, but I think it in doing so is also like I don't know if it's needlessly complex, but it's definitely differently complex. All video games are needlessly complex, maybe.
Have you hung out with the drunkards in the fishing village yet?
Yeah,
They're
I
hilarious.
they're hilarious, and I bought some blue liquid off one of them.
I got that one too. Yeah, I
Yeah,
bargained them down to like three
yeah,
real.
bargained them down from like 3,000 to three, and I was like, all right, I'm probably supposed to have this thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I talked the pawn shop dealer into giving me a free metal T-shirt because I was like, don't I look like the reincarnation of that guy? And he was like, you do. I like the pawn shop guy a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, found a bunch of drugs. Haven't taken any yet. It's just a weird time.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'm glad you're playing it too. Yeah, I look forward to actually finishing it because
Yeah.
I do want to
Same.
sort of know. I
Same.
want to know if it's worth the payoff because everyone says it is. Like no one's like, oh, that game ends really badly. So otherwise, I'd be like
Well,
more
that would
disappointed.
be a difficult game to replay. I'll be totally honest because I asked you about
Mm,
like do you see yourself replaying? I don't see myself replaying it. It's just a
yeah,
little too slow, I think.
it's one. It's like it depends how long it is. I assume it's going to go to day like 5 or 6, and I will definitely probably be done with it by then.
Yeah, I mean, the timer makes me nervous. Actually, I wish it didn't have that aspect to it.
Mm, hmm. Yeah, because I guess you could just lose. I don't
Well,
know what happens after a
what
certain
is
amount of time.
the funny thing is there's a timer, but it's not really clear what the impending consequences are of the timer advancing.
Yep, correct. Yeah, it's I don't know, but it kind of reminds me of like Majora's Mask in a way, where there's like
Yeah,
where you can't not play without the world progressing, which I really like.
yeah,
But it's like it's led me to believe that if I don't fuck up, if I don't do extremely stupid shit that I would probably not do, it's fine. But
yeah.
we'll see.
What other games did time travel really well? It's like the Zelda games are the ones that like fully embraced it, but I can't really think of other games that really lean into that. You know what I mean?
Mm, yeah, yeah, not a lot.
Isn't that
Is
weird?
there?
Is it just that
Yeah,
hard to pull off?
I mean, probably, but it's such a it works so well in movies.
Mm.
Time travel games. Oh well, Prince of Persia was fucking right. Braid. There's a couple in here.
Um, I guess when I think of like Ocarina of Time, it was very there's a lot of like kind of like puzzles that you would go back and forth in time to kind of like mess
Hmm.
with.
Hmm.
Oh, I guess Day of the Tentacle for sure. Yeah,
I never played. Is that time travel based? I should play Day of the
yeah.
Tentacle.
It's got like like plant this. You can't get into a room, so plant the key in the past and then go back.
That's really
That sort
cool.
of thing. Yeah.
I was gonna say Outer Wilds.
Oh man, yeah.
Spectacularly so. Yeah.
Yeah for sure. Outer Wilds. I
Yeah.
really
That was
want
a,
to get back into that game, but I'm
did you fin
afraid.
I didn't finish it either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of the giant fish?
I get sick, A, and then B, I
Oh
like
no.
hated the flying mechanic. I just can't
It's
stand
it's
realistic
rough.
physics. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
they
not
were like,
fun.
we're gonna simulate flying a real spaceship, and I was like, no, please don't. Bioshock, yeah. Prince of Persia.
Did you read how
Oh, Chrono Trigger
did
was
you read how
actually
the
pretty.
players always position 0 in Outer Wilds?
Yeah, I think you told me that,
Yeah.
which is just a mind-blowing fact.
Because it turns out they have to move everything anyways, because everything is constantly in motion. So they're
Hmm.
like, well, we'll might as well just like if we're iterating over every object in the game to change their position, we might as well also like set a global, which is how much the player moved this turn, and then just use that as a nudge factor for everything else in the game.
So wild.
Yeah,
Oop, the hell?
I can still hear you, but it sounds like you're in a box right now.
Oh, hey, how's that?
That's good.
I don't know why my headphones just disconnected. So helpful. Good work, Apple.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Outer Wilds. Also, that was a Unity one, right?
Is it Unity? I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah, Outer Wilds Unity. Um, yeah, it totally is.
Yeah, nice.
Which is really surprising. I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's
Yeah,
cool to see
I mean,
what
like
you can do with
everything I
that.
know about Unity says that like performance ain't great, object count is limited, but they were able to cram a lot
Hmm.
of game into Outer Wilds.
Yeah, but like the object count of that game is actually like it is limited. Like there's only 6 planets, and each planet's doing a thing. But like I can see how they sort of like squeezed it in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I feel like unless you're doing Assassin's Creed, you probably don't need more than Unity.
right,
Or rather, I would like to hit the limits of what Unity can do before I'm like, you know what?
totally.
Time to learn Unreal or write your own. Speaking of cool game engines, ours is really cool.
The rockets are really fun, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. How do you feel about the smoke? I enjoy the effect
The
that it just
smoke
has
is
this like
good.
nice little
Yeah,
trail. Yeah, yeah. It's a really cool effect.
yeah. I almost want to add like
Yeah,
a
especially like
short-lived emitter, a short-lived emitter in the emitter set that's a little red flare that kind of goes on and off. So it's
oh,
just it only flares like at the very beginning. Do you know?
hmm, right. Yeah, something like when it hits that yeah, that little point. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, we just set the
That
time to
would
live
be more
for that one emitter to be very very short,
like super tiny. Yeah.
and then but like an extremely high spawn rate or something.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. So let's see, Animator Export. For this thing, we need to put a non-expiring flag in
Yeah,
here,
I
but
know. I was gonna make the exact same comment to you as well.
yeah, I don't know if you've done this editing where you like make it non-expiring and then put it back in here.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Um,
Sweet. Yeah, because this does this thing have a TTL? I guess it doesn't. We just choose to start that emitter further down the line. So Actually, Startup says that, and then TTL is very short. Oh, this is tough with the forever emitter, huh? Damn. All right, wait, non-expiring false for all these real quick. Okay, great. Just a tiny, let's see, high spawn rate, little red burst.
Red to orange, maybe. Red to red orange.
Yeah, we'll go pretty similar. And you want like a little, like a something bursty, like a little bit of a sphere, or I guess it's a rocket.
I think the offset can be 0.
Yeah.
And then, but the spread we will want a little bit of spread.
Okay. All that in there. All that, and gosh,
and then the particle TTL should probably be way lower, I think.
Super low.
Super
low. It is.
Yeah. Probably even low speed.
That's just a pop.
Yeah.
Low speed. Yep. Slightly less low than that, but yeah. Maybe it's a little more TTL.
Or the emitter TTL can just be like a hair longer, something like that.
Yeah. I forgot if it's low speed, it's going to stay where it is, which is actually what we probably want for this little pop. Let me try this. Just to see where we're at, because it's hard to gauge this with the non-expiring.
Yeah.
Oh, because this last one actually should expire, huh?
The last one is which one?
The red one should be expiring.
Yes.
This is not expiring false. Yeah, because otherwise it's that's cute.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I like that. Oh yeah, that looks sick. Yep. I like it.
Yep.
Good call. Yeah, man. Yeah, the system worked out great. Do you wanna talk through the things you've done?
Yeah, sure.
We've got our emitter system now. Oops. Emitter.
Yeah, I was like worried about naming things because I was like, is this going to be a second particle system? But it turns out it's the emitter system and not the particle system. And the emitter system is responsible for creating particles, but it's not actually responsible for simulating them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, I saw this come through and I was like, wait, why do we have two of these? And I had to like do a close read and I was like, oh, cool. Like there's like a responsibility handoff basically.
So the problem we were running into last time is that our emitters lived inside of the particle system, and there was no easy way for the game simulation to communicate with the particle system. In particular, we don't have a great way of identifying objects in the game that are... We don't have a good way of having stable entity IDs in the game because we have resim, we have networking stuff like entity creation can go out of order, and because each client doesn't wait for the server to tell it that something got created, it predicts those. Each client needs to know how to generate those things, and it'll just give it the next ID that it has available, right? However, we do have a way of like making sure that the state is accurate at all times. So even if the IDs aren't, so as long as we can have the state of an emitter inside of our like resimulation system, mm-hmm. then we can move things around and drive them using game logic. So the compromise that we came up with was basically to say, let's actually put the emitter state into the game simulation, at least for emitters that need to be synchronized with things that happen in the game, right? And that includes like objects moving around, right? So if an emitter needs to follow the position of an object, like on the rockets, why don't we put the emitter state into a component that is synchronized, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. So we're using this in a couple places already. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is exciting. This is actually one instance of a component that gets added after the initial entity that it's attached to is created. Everything else, we've created the entity, and alongside that, there's a bunch of components that get added to it with the same entity ID, and they all kind of have the same lifespan. They all get added at the same time. They all get cleaned up at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
The emitter component is the one thing that's not like that.
That's interesting. Yeah. So it's actually starting empty for every. I guess every entity have one, but every bullet starts out with an empty one, and only the rocket gets this added.
And
That's
the rocket, cool. we only added on a single frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the creation can get resimulated, but it doesn't matter. The state will always be the same.
Right.
So, and then I think it'll also get removed when all of the emitters inside of it reach end of life. So if you go to the emitter system itself, I think during the update, you'll see us actually remove it at the very end.
Yep. It's not active.
And then line 100 and 102 actually deletes them.
Ah, nice.
I'm not sure if I needed to defer it to the end of that loop, but I tend to like deleting things at the end of loops.
I was taught never to do it in the middle, and so I don't either.
Yeah.
Someone told me it was dangerous. That might have been related to C and not relevant anymore, but it's still baked in there.
Yeah. It seems like a safer thing to do in general, right?
Absolutely.
Like, what if the simulation of a later particle depends on a previous one, right? Something earlier in the list. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I noticed we haven't updated the dog muzzle flash emitter to do this yet. Did you want to track that? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to do. There's a problem that I don't know how to solve yet with that, but we can talk about it in a second.
Okay, cool.
So we still have space for emitters that aren't synchronized, and so the old emitter system as it originally existed still is there. So that means that the particle system still has a list of emitters. Mm-hmm. So if you go to the basic emitter.ts, I tried to factor out like the particle creation logic into a function that both the emitter components could use and the one-off emitters could use. So that's what this emit function is. And I'm using a pattern that I learned from 3.js, which is the immediately evaluated function that wraps over its temporaries. So it's a little bit confusing, but like we're assigning to the constant called emit the result of calling a function which returns a function. So if you notice at line 60 to 65, this is what we're returning is just it's like a closure over lines 52 to 58. And this is just a slight evolution of the change that you made, because you're like, why do we need to create these every single function call or every single object? Why don't we just like stick these in the global scope? And because it's all single threaded, it doesn't really matter. And the advantage of doing it this way is that nothing else, even in this file, can refer to these temporaries. They're kind of the exclusive property of the closure, right? Which is a pretty neat pattern.
That's really cool, but you only ever evaluate this thing once.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Yeah.
Neat.
So the emit function is used both by the emitter system and by the one-off emitters that the particle system owns. So if you scroll down to the basic emitter class, these are like the basic emitter class is like the one-off thing, and now its update function has gotten to be really, really small. It just uses that emit. Because all that code used to be in there, and it was duplicated twice. So that was one evolution. I'm actually wondering if in fact, perhaps the emitter component should actually contain a basic emitter inside of it. So far, we've avoided having components that have complex objects like classes as its properties. But like, I wonder, there's enough overlap between the emitter component and the basic emitter that I'm like, there's a refactor
Yeah,
out there that perhaps would be interesting to do.
gotcha. Right, because our we use it in the render function here, and this is okay. Huh. That's a good question.
Yeah.
What is what's tracking particles render? Oh, I see. This is doing the exact same thing. Interesting. Why
Yeah.
is particles render a number array though?
It's basically every emitter component is one of those settings.json files, which is an array of emitters. And basically, the particles to
Oh,
render is a
right.
number for each one of those emitters.
That makes sense. Yep. Cool. Gotcha. Well, for this one, we actually instantiate multiple basic emitters, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
If we hand it through the other system. Cool.
Yeah, and then there's one last weird factoring thing, which is if you go to the client, I think it's the client. If you scroll down to the update, the render manager update, like 115, the render manager is what draws our terrain, it draws our debug draw, it draws the world, it draws everything. The one thing it doesn't really draw is the particles. It's kind of sitting there.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
And I kind of want to get the particle system inside of the render manager.
Yeah.
But what I didn't want to do was pass a giant array of particles every frame into the update function. Because that's what's happening with all of our models right now, right? If you look at like lines 115 to 119, essentially we're asking the simulation for all of the things that we can draw, and it ends up being this giant array. And I think that the array of particles might be really big.
Right. Versus handing this to the renderer and letting it do that itself. Yeah.
Right. But that means that like if we wanted to just like continue with the pattern that we're doing right now, but give the render manager the particle system, it means that the render manager needs to know how to iterate over entities. Because if you're not feeding it an array, that means that it has to do the iteration, right? And then pull the information out of the game state that it needs.
Oh, interesting. Yep.
And then I didn't know how to resolve that. I didn't know how to say like, should the render manager know about entities? Maybe it's fine. I don't know.
Yeah, though to hand this to the renderer itself, don't we can't we pass it this sort of fixed chunk of data? Like isn't the actual thing that the renderer needs to know about for rendering particles just like these 6 arrays no matter what? You're saying they're just huge.
What the renderer gets from the rest of the game, what the particle system gets for the rest of the game is calls to the add function. There's an add function, which, yeah, it's that. So we have two different paradigms here. The paradigm.
I realize there's a second render going on here. I gotcha.
Oh, that's the system. Yeah. This is the first system that we've used, that the first system in the game that has both an update and a render. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sorry. I thought. Oh, totally. I thought I saw the ad here and I was like, oh, cool. It's eventually falling into the particle system, but it's not.
Yeah.
That's handling a different set. Okay. Gotcha.
So I think we have two different paradigms here that we could experiment with. One paradigm, if you go back to client.ts, is the way that we render everything in the game, like the models, which is that we ask the simulation, hey, give me all your models, or give me all the draw information for all the models. The other paradigm is to dependency inject a draw something function into a system, which is what's happening on lines 122 to 127. And they're more or less equivalent. It's just like, do you want a temporary array in there or not? The temporary array is nice because it's super data driven, but it's just, you have to create that giant array. And I don't know, I don't actually know how big that array would be for particles that get created every frame. Might be just a few thousand entries large, and maybe that's fine. I don't know.
Jeff, why is this called render? Isn't this actually update?
There's both an update and a render for the emitter.
Yeah, I see. Because update is going through and modifying Oh, this is doing some cleanup. Okay.
Yeah.
Update emitter in the set.
This update function is called inside the simulate function, which means that it happens.
Right.
It happens on the server. It happens on all the clients. And there's a very
Mm.
awkward thing that it does. It communicates to the render by setting the particles to render value on the component. So if you scroll up to the structure of the component, I left a comment in there describing it.
Oh.
It basically this member line 23, this member variable is the result of calling update. That's like,
Mhm.
but it itself is not. It's not like state that you need to preserve from frame over frame. Like we basically can
Gotcha.
just chuck it. But I stuck it on the component because I didn't want to update the particle system during the update function. It's not really part of the simulation.
Yep. Yep. Okay. I guess. Sorry. I guess I'm. Maybe the thing I'm pulling on is that what render does is call emit,
Mm-hmm.
which is updating all of our properties for the particle. Like it's doing all our particle physics. Um,
Yep.
but then the particle system, like it's weird because this feels like update particles to me, right? Like nothing. The renderer never gets passed in here.
It's not actually rendering. So you're
Right. Yeah,
right.
that's what I'm saying. It's not doing render. This is actually like update renderables or something.
Uh, it's like add particles or something like it's like generate particles, right?
Yeah.
Or emit particles.
Hmm.
They're emitters that emit particles, right?
Yep. It is doing the emitting right
Yeah.
there.
So
So
I'm happy
that's
to
fine.
name
Yeah.
name name it that way. That's totally fine.
Yeah. I think it was starting because I saw that I was a little concerned that we were in fact doing like we were breaking the single render call for every particle paradigm, which
Yes, that's probably a good thing. I
now we're
called it
good.
render just because that's what it gets called during the render phase. But
Totally. No, I absolutely see why. Yeah.
but I think calling it emit particles is fine too. Or yeah,
Yep. Right. Because we do the whole. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. I see why this was a pickle to figure out.
yeah.
Okay. So when I said attaching the emitter to the dog, you said there was still a problem we hadn't addressed as well.
So if you look at the way that the particle emitters have to follow the objects,
Hmm.
and they chase the transform. So if you
Hmm.
look at the emitter system, yes, under emit particles, you've hit the nail on the head right here. Um, the big difference between the emitter component and the basic emitter object, which are again are one-off fire and forget emitters that the particle system owns. The big difference is that basic emitters have their own orientation and origin point, whereas we get that from the entity's transform
Right.
because that transform might be changing, right? So we have to run the simulation. The transform might have gotten updated, and now like the emitters needs to
Hmm.
be at a new position. For both of those properties, the emitter component has an offset from them. So it says like, for example, the exhaust on the rocket, its offset position wise is a little bit off the back of the transform,
Hmm.
and it is also the opposite orientation that the rocket is oriented. Right, it's not shooting in the direction that the rocket is moving. It's actually doing the opposite. Right.
Right.
So when we spawn that exhaust, you can see it in the bullet system.
Yeah.
The offsets are right there on line 51. We're basically saying it's a quarter of a tile off the back of the
Hmm.
south end of the north facing bullet model, and then we add math.pi to rotate its orientation exactly 180 degrees opposite of the way that the bullet is oriented.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Um, so all of this makes sense so far.
Hmm.
So the question is, what transform are we reading for the turret? It's not the transform of the
Hmm.
body, it's the transform of the head, right? And I don't know how to. I haven't figured out how to factor that yet. I'm not saying it's impossible, I just haven't thought about it, right?
Yep. 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 That's a great point. Where do we do this in the shooter system?
Yeah.
Then particle.
So one way we could do this is we could model the shooter as a separate entity, so that the dog is like two different entities. But then you have to figure out how to keep those two things in lockstep with each other.
Yeah, that has its own.
We could come up with a concept like a scene graph where entities are children of other entities.
Which is kind of what we already have with the way that stuff's working. Yeah.
That's the way the rendering works for sure.
Yeah. Gotcha. Huh.
And we might be able to get away with, how we have this awkward model modifier system? It's a little bit funky.
It's pretty weird, yeah.
Another way that we could do that is actually express this, like, the physical relationships between like a parent object and a child object in the actual entity system. And then just say this child object is this path. It actually controls this path of the model that the parent object rendered. Basically the parent is
That's really interesting.
Has like the whole model, but then we assign. We basically say the way that you render the model is that you should look at the child entity to figure out how to render like a particular mesh of that model. In that case, you would basically assign the turret child object as responsible for coming up with the transforms for the head mesh, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say the this is for the current emitter system torque. It's a offset from the origin of the model, but it's actually how we have the tank muzzle flare going right now, right? If it's just this, actually, it is just from the origin. Did we? I think we offset the muzzle flare in the editor. Flash. I guess yeah, I guess I'm not sure. I think we already did this work sort of. Is that crazy?
I think that's true for the positioning, but the orientation you can see is from the event.
Oh.
Right, and the orientation comes from the shooter.
Right. I see. I'd be okay. I mean, it would be one nicer if it at least tracked the model as it moved. Oops. But yeah, it would look weird if you were spinning and it wasn't following the orientation too. Gotcha. Okay.
So we either need to. I mean, gosh, it's not that this is impossible. There's just like a number of equally ugly ways or like differently ugly ways of implementing this.
Exactly.
You could imagine attaching multiple transforms to the same entity. We don't really have that ability yet where we can say like, actually, there's two transform components on a single entity, because we'd have to actually figure out how to like apply those different transforms to all kinds of different systems, right? How does it render? How does it actually work in physics? Which part of the mesh applies to which transform? Those relationships need to be defined, or like how we configure those relationships need to be defined. We could do two separate top level entities, one for the shooter, one for the body. But then we're kind of have to figure out how do those two things keep synchronized? Like when the body moves, you probably have to move the head at the same time. Or we could come up with like a parent-child relationship between two entities. That seems like the most kind of natural way of doing things, but I don't know what like side effects that would result from that.
Yeah, you're saying have the head be the child of the tank body, or just the shooter itself be a child entity, or whether a child entity that just has a shooter on it, basically.
Maybe we can separate we can separate let's take rendering out of the picture completely.
Yeah.
At least rendering of the meshes of the character. We can have one entity that represents essentially the physical position and orientation of the body. And then a child entity that represents the offset from that, both the kind of position offset and the rotation offset from the parent. And the shooter component would be attached to that, right?
Yeah.
And then any emitters that we add for the muzzle flare would be attached to the child entity and not the parent entity. Does that make sense?
Pretty clever. Yeah, it does. And I think it's sort of, I like the notion of unbaking this orientation from the shooter too. Because we popped this in here basically because we didn't have that available to us. Like
Right.
this shouldn't be here. Only transform should have orientation. I mean, maybe. But we could at least keep one paradigm for that if we wanted to.
And then to get rendering back into the equation, we'd have to figure out, like, okay, well, how does that parent-child relationship in the entity tree, the tree of entities, how does that relate to the model? Because the model also has that parent-child relationship between meshes.
Yep.
One way we could do that is actually just have a completely separate model for just the head. You know what I mean?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
that would be the most natural way of doing it, actually, I think.
We could do that.
But that would get us even further from bone animation, right? That would get us like even further from that.
That's true.
Yeah. And so if we had skinned meshes, then we would have some way of, you know how you were talking about like finding an attachment point for like figuring out where the particle emitter would be? We'd also use that system to drive where the emitter is rotated and positioned as well. Frame over frame, right?
Okay. Yeah. But that does seem like an inevitability at some point coming down the line. Okay. I do think that makes more sense.
Well,
it sort of lines up. It lines up with how the system should work in my head too. So
yeah. So suffice it to say that it's a complicated question, not because it's hard, but there's almost like, again, like there's like a bunch of like variously unsavory ways of implementing it, right? So I think the way I feel about it right now is that the muzzle flare is like okay, you know, like it's enough to kind of.
Yeah,
well, I don't love how it moves away from the dog, for sure. It kind of sucks, right?
I mean, would it be, do you want to do the halfway version where it at least sticks with the model, but yeah, orientation will be wrong? We could do that
if we
today,
can figure
right?
out a way of expressing that cleanly, I'd be good with that.
I think, well, that I think is pretty simple since we don't have to calculate its offset from the head because we already did it. I think that's just using your new system here. Fucking fly.
So which entity would you attach the? It's all the tank, right? That basically is what you're saying.
It's all the tank. Yeah, this entire thing is just like we're getting the tank transform here, but this actually just needs to be 0 since we're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that it's gonna look really weird if we can't synchronize it with the orientation of the head. Right, because the muzzle flare is always going to fire in the direction that the body is pointing.
That the direction it's going to fire in the original direction, or do we reorient every frame as well?
It's reorienting every because it's going to become an emitter component, which reads the orientation off the transform, and the transform network. Yeah,
that's pretty weird. Yeah,
so you see the source of my angst.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, thanks for going through the same journey again.
No, it's fine.
Cool. I do agree that looks like a huge pain in the ass until we rig the dog, basically.
Yeah, I mean the other thing you could do is just make the emitter TTL a little bit lower for the muzzle flare, and that would reduce the effect. But it's kind of. I don't know.
I like it.
It's kind of good right now, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good muzzle flare.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Uh,
What's
okay.
the hackiest thing we could do?
What is the hackiest thing we could do? I bet we could.
The hackiest thing we could do is to have an override that is like on the component that is like this is the absolute orientation or this is the absolute position and use that instead of the transform if it's set. And then
That would be.
make sure that something else updates at every frame.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. So if you go to the
Uh,
emitter component at the top of this, it doesn't have a position or orientation as an offset, but we could have like an optional absolute orientation or something like that.
Canonical, yeah. I was gonna say we could also. What is our? Where do we get that? I was gonna say we could pass in a closure for this as well. That defaults to NZManager.transform to get any ID, and we could override it
The
with
closure's not
NZManager.
clonable though.
Closure's not clonable. Ah, shit. Yeah, okay. Damn these entities. Okay, that's fair.
Well, I don't know. Like I think we could just say if there's a shooter, pull the orientation off the shooter, right? Like if we're pulling, and we literally do it right there on line 121.
Do it on 121.
Like right after this, we could just say, is there a shooter on the same entity? And if so, get the orientation off the shooter rather than doing.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shooters. That is very
And
hacky.
then no
Yeah.
exclamation point on the end of that.
Hmm.
This is the best hack. This is just like write in a little special case, right?
Hmm.
Yep.
I feel good about that. Yeah. Else.
And then I would we even add the offset in that case? I think we just like we get rid of that.
Cool.
And that's
Yep,
not
that
going to
makes
do anything
sense.
because we still need to make that emitter a component on, like it would no longer be a side
Correct.
effect. So
Oh, yeah, I
so
mean,
yeah, exactly. We copy that. So wherever we fire that frame event, the tank shoot event, um,
wherever we fire it, I see. I guess we can't do that here, can we? Interesting.
yeah, I mean we could, but I think right now the way that you would do it is you do it from the shooter system.
Yeah, okay.
Wherever tank shoot gets created, that instead of doing this, we just move all this stuff. Yeah.
Makes sense to me. It's interesting that we can't, yeah, okay.
But I like what
Frame.
you're thinking though. We could theoretically, well, we can't because the side effect system is kind of outside of the synchronization of the game loop. So I think it's better to keep all the simulation stuff where the simulation happens.
Right, because this just needs to run. It needs to run in resimulation as well,
It
which is
does.
why it has to happen here. Yep.
Exactly. Yep.
Yikes. Okay. Cool. That I don't see a way around that. Maybe the ultimate thing is to get these side effects to be handled in resimulation as well, in a safe way. That might be pretty hard.
Yeah, we need to fork the concept of side effects between stuff that they wouldn't really be side effects anymore. In the there's side effects
Exactly.
from one perspective in terms of like the entity, like there's or the systems. There's like the main thing that the system does, and there's also side things that the system, secondary things that the system does. So they're more like secondary state changes than they are side effects. Side effects I think of as like completely client side, like window dressing that is fire and forget.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. This offset is a vec2.
Yeah, It's still in 2D space. It doesn't have to be, but I think this is just a result of the fact that we're using two different coordinate systems. It was easier to use Vec2 up front.
Yeah, totally. I guess this is the one thing that we modified the Y component of our emitter for. So I'm gonna turn this into a vec3 while we're doing it. Though, that's annoying because then we at least have to pass through 0.5 for everything. Okay, let's maybe just keep that.
And then the rocket would have to make that 3-space calculation in the rocket.
Yeah.
I think the height offset's not that bad though. Like if the muzzle flare's not coming off like the height of the nose,
It's gonna look weird. Yeah.
Well, we'll just manually force it to be there, right?
Oh, in the emitter itself. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's just a work in progress that we should probably just move the game sim into 3-space, right?
Yeah. We should. Cool. Okay. Let's see. So that orientation, it's tracking, but it's not doing the right
what if
thing.
we
So
got
why is
rid
that?
of the math.pi right there? Because the orientation should be the same orientation as it should align with the way the face is the head is pointing, right?
That is a good point.
So I think it's just 0.
Just 0, yeah. Just gonna keep grabbing my window shortcut. Let's see what that does. Yeah, so it's coming out the top of the thing. So I think maybe this override isn't working. Shooter's not undefined. Yeah, okay, I mean shooter's there. We're using orientation 2 fairly immediately. Huh.
Oh, I thought of another problem.
Yeah.
What happens if the emitter doesn't... Our emitters are going to stack, but the system doesn't allow you to stack emitters right now. So we might want to add...
Because of resimulation, you mean?
No, just because the component can only have one emitter on it at a time. Or one set of emitters on it at a time. But you're basically, like, each shot is a separate set. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'm overwriting it every time I shoot. Which is maybe
I'm not sure if I
this.
understand why this isn't working, though. This seems like it should be fine.
Yeah. Something's not wrong. Yeah, what's gone wrong here? Huh. Is there anything that's actually depending on this? That's really weird. Yeah, it's totally just coming out a different spot.
Do we use ec.rote offset after this point?
No. No, that's it. And then orientation 2 is only used throughout the rest of this. And base orientation just gets updated with this. Yeah. Huh. I'm surprised by that. And I'm shooting the normal bullets, so I actually shouldn't be seeing any of this coming from the
For the rocket, yeah.
Yeah. Weird.
Are our side effects still is this... Oh, you commented it out, right? The tank shoot...
I commented it out, yeah.
Okay, so that it's not like we're looking at the wrong thing right now. Yeah, that's totally commented. Okay, great.
Yeah, and yeah, that's gone. I will just this whole side effect is gone basically. Keep it there for posterity, but
yeah.
Yeah, and then let's see. So the thing is it that we're not setting this axis angle? I feel like we're doing all this math already. Like we're firing off the event with the shooter orientation.
Yeah, that kind of like that all that negating happens inside the emitter emit
Yeah,
particles function, right? We negate
yeah,
it
you
right there.
do that right here.
Yeah. In fact, I
Um,
probably just like copied the code over, you know.
it's a little different because we're doing set axis angle versus from Euler, but it
Oh
should be
yeah,
the same
it's
thing.
theoretically the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, because this is starting like yeah, that should be exactly the same.
Hmm.
Mm, I mean, let me just like do something silly there, but like that should change where it shoots from. I mean, one of these values should change where it shoots from, I think. And it is not. So that's like this is actually like not affecting it. Weird. Why would that be the case?
If we
Always.
go to line 150
Hmm.
and console log base orientation,
Yeah, let's do that.
it's going to be like a bunch of shit, but
That's okay.
is that value not changing?
That value is unchanging. What's up with that? Oh, sorry. Well, orientation is also not changing because I made it the same value every time. So let's see if I shoot that. No, it's different. I don't quite know how to read.
Quaternions.
Yeah, but the second value is changing pretty consistently.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, quaternions are hard to eyeball. Like I kind of like I think we'll get a sense of it over time, but
Fair enough.
you're
Yeah.
right to say that. So the second value is changing, you're saying.
Yeah, and I can make it go from positive to negative pretty easily.
But it doesn't look like it's changing like a whole lot, right?
No, not a lot at all.
It's like
Oh,
pretty close to zero still, right?
is there a possibility that we're acting in radians when we should be acting in angle in degrees?
Oh, you might be right.
Uh,
From Euler is from Euler I believe is in degrees. Ah, okay. Yeah. So we need
but
to
has transform dot orientation been degrees the whole time and shoot orientation has been in radians?
oh god, I hope not.
Because like if so, let's fix that. I don't want to find this again. Uh, that seems silly of us,
I think it
but
should be it it feels like it should be
radians? Where do we? Oh,
I'm
I
pretty
guess
sure it's
not.
radians cuz like that's how we
I'm pretty.
calculate where the bullet gets spawned, right? That's all.
I'm pretty sure about that as well.
So that call to from Euler is just wrong, I think.
Has it been wrong the whole time?
It,
Oh, because the rocket gets shot off with a. The rocket doesn't rotate, so it's never had to do it. I think that's what's happening.
the rocket does rotate though.
No, the rocket gets created with a original offset orientation and never rotates. The transform orientation of the rocket never rotates, and it gets created with the correct angle rotation
What I'm
because the
saying though
rocket's
is
going in a
line
straight line.
143 is just straight up wrong.
Yeah. I think we're passing in angles here, so it's coming off correctly for this, where this orientation has been in radians the whole time, and just kind of unaffecting
I don't think that's
the
correct,
rockets.
right? The
Okay.
rotation, the only rotation offset that we've passed in that's non-zero is math.pi, which is in radians.
Oh, really? Fuck. Never
Yeah,
mind.
if you look at the rocket creation, we pass in math.pi. It's in bullet system.
A bullet system. And the shooter in the bullet system. Poof.
Yeah.
Oh, well, fuck. Oh. All right, you got me there.
So instead of so that from Euler has just been wrong the entire time.
But how?
What if we just multiply that line times how many degrees we need to convert that to degrees, so it's like 180 divided by math.pi, something like that.
That sounds right. Yep. So times, yeah.
The other thing we could do is we could do the rotation, the other calculation that we were doing around the positive y-axis.
Uh-oh. I'm in Hellland. What was the thing that caused this? Orientation is not defined. Because it's orientation too. It is wild that works.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So now this totally spawns correctly, and the dog looks like it's puking.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Why the hell did the rocket work before?
Good. Can we fire the rocket now? Does it still work?
Yes, it still works. Looks fine, right?
Jesus, I don't know. That
Okay, so if I take this out, it really shouldn't have. I'm super confused. If I take this out, then this is always up, and the rocket is still always correct.
The rocket. Do you notice how the yellow flare kind of has an upward tilt to it? Oh, the rocket wasn't working. What's happening is it's shooting forward, but because the emitter is moving, it's going to create the impression of a trail anyways.
Huh.
There you go.
Oh, thank goodness. Because
yeah, that's a satisfying.
That's a much better answer. Oh, yeah, no more upward tilt.
Yeah.
Whew. Okay.
So maybe rather than doing that conversion from Euler's the wrong thing, maybe it should be.
Yeah, we had that. We should be doing this. The
set axis angle. Yeah.
Yeah. Base orientation and math. Nope.
You just have to import math with an asterisk. It doesn't know how to do that.
Oh, it won't do it. Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, or just don't do math dot. You've already got plus y3 in the namespace. You could just do it that way.
Yeah.
And then we could just get rid of the times 180 divided by math.pi there.
Mm-hmm. All right, looks good.
And then we can actually adjust we can also do something really, really gross, which is where we do let orientation to. Can we also give that a type? It's a number.
Mm-hmm.
And then also do let y offset. Oh yeah, I see what you're doing here. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll do the gross thing that you are totally about to suggest as well.
Yeah.
I hate it. Let's do it. 0.5, and then this is going to be y offset equals 7, and yuck.
You know what? That's not the problem. The problem is that we're looking at the shooter at all in this, but it's fine. Whatever. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's true. Finally got this fly. It's been getting me. Now I have a dead fly in my hands.
Oh, it's okay.
It's
I'm proud
yeah,
of you.
it was really really into my eyelashes, which is the worst place for a fly to be.
Yeah,
Okay,
eyelash,
cool.
eyes and ears. Yeah,
Mm. I I do really like this creation process versus this creation process.
I do too.
Like that's a nice simplification.
And because because the rocket exhaust wasn't pointed in the right direction, it raised the question of like, should there be even any speed at all on the rocket particles, right? Like, should they be even be moving, or should they just have like zero speed, right? I mean, they look
Oh
cool.
yeah, I
They look
mean
cool.
they look cool. That's I think it's the difference. Well, actually, I don't know. I was gonna say maybe it's the difference between the smoke and the rocket, but I bet if they all had zero speed, it would work the same.
Yeah,
Yeah, because the smoke is zero speed, so it just goes up and sort of makes the trail.
I feel like the red TTL needs to be lower, but it's hard to edit.
Yeah, the red got weird.
The red
Tweak it
stays
real.
there for a long time, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna tweak that real
Okay.
quick.
Sorry about the undefined thing.
No, no, what I'm gonna do is just import it, change the TTL, and export it.
Why don't we change the TTL for the red in the JSON, and that therefore we don't have to like mess with everything.
Wowza. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. That's just this sucker, huh? 0.3, 0.15 to 0.25.
Yeah,
Switch the rocket.
maybe even less.
Yeah,
Zero
it's really.
point 0.015 to 0 to 1.
Oh, that's better.
That's
Yeah,
better. That's better.
yeah. I like that it stays inside the yellow, so it feels like that fire there.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Oh gosh, did I just get Burning Man tickets? That's gonna be a problem.
What tickets?
Burning Man
Burning Man.
tickets.
Oh,
This everything is gonna come back to life much faster than I want it to, and I am not prepared.
when is Burning Man again? August?
I mean, usually in August, I'll be vaccinated. We'll all be vaccinated.
Everyone that's going to Burning Man is going to be vaccinated, I think, right?
Oh, except that it's going to collect those people who are like, I don't need vaccinations. I've got crystals. You know they're there.
Really?
Oh man, it's not just for tech bros anymore. Or rather, I guess it wasn't always just for tech bros. It's always had the crystal healers too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll probably be very good 5G reception on the playa this year if people go.
Well, we solved this issue with a savage hack.
I feel a little dirty, but
You know what's too bad is that we don't have the ability to add multiple emitters to this, but the reason why we would want it is we'd want to be able to add like a dash particle emitter plus the muzzle flare emitter at the same time, which would be
yeah,
cool.
I really like this like sneezing dog now though. It's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I'm feeling it. Cool.
Can we reduce the
All
rate of
right.
fire of the missiles?
Yes. Do you want to reduce it or do you want to go shotgun?
Good question. Up to you. What do
I
you
think
think?
I think it should be shotgun. I think
Okay.
we should fork our because you can't you should have to click. These should be powerful. I also want to up the damage.
Yeah.
Do we have that? We do have that ability, right? Because these have damage values.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
bullets all have types on them.
It's both of them. So where we make the
I don't know where damage is calculated, but
that's
it's
that's what
all
I'm
well
wondering.
within our power.
Oh yeah, no, we can do it. Um, yeah, where does that happen? Oh, the shooter system, right? Not the bullet system. Make bullet. Yeah, cool, cool, cool. And do we know the type in here? How does type? Oh, make bullet takes type. Oh, great. Never mind. That's easy. We'll just stick that in here. Damageable. Bullet. Or what is it? Type equals bullet type dot rocket. I don't know, 5. Because I want these rockets to knock out the walls in a single shot. Yeah.
Oh damn.
It's way too powerful now, but
Yeah.
That's fine. It also looks extremely cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it takes out everything on a single shot, actually. Okay, great. So in the shooter system, when we're deciding, so what do we have now? We have this last fired frame.
I think we need to generalize the shooter system so that it has different timing modes based on.
Yeah, it's right, because we're seeing firing messages from the player, and we need to see the TT. We need to see like the cooldown, and we need to see a message come through that doesn't have attack dot firing on it. That is shotgun firing, right?
Message dot attack firing is just that the it's being held down, right?
Yeah. So for a shotgun, we have to see both the TTL pass and firing come back false before we let another event go out. Before we let another bullet be created.
Yeah. So is maybe we could expand firing to its constituent parts. So firing could become shoot held versus shoot down versus shoot up, right? We could break it into like a couple different categories.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, where are we using this? Oops. Yeah, okay, so taking that to the player input system.
And it's probably actually a category that we don't have yet anywhere in the game, which is the notion of something being pushed down for the first time, for the first frame. Because like we could do up, like we have this notion of up where it's like, or it's released rather. Like we have the notion of that, but I think you don't want to like click and hold, and then up and then release, and that's when the missile fires. It's probably like when the button goes down physically, right?
Absolutely.
But you don't want it to like happen 3 frames into that. You want it to be like the frame that the button goes down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which we don't really have a word for yet.
Yeah. Do we have like mouse dot is?
I think we have down, which is like.
We have is up too. That's good.
Yeah, which we could call is like release is almost like the better. It's like the better word, right? Released.
Yeah.
But what's the opposite of released? It's like down for the first time, right? Down when it wasn't down the frame before.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. So this is firing, but we also want like fire pressed.
We could distinguish between pressed and held.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay. That, and I think actually don't we have that on the keyboard side already? Maybe not, but I think
we do actually.
We do. Yeah.
We had down and held. And can we?
And we had to add this. Yeah. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
Oh, I think this is exactly the same concept. I think we call down. Yeah. Down is like just the frame that it goes down on. Held is any frame. It is inclusive of any frame where the mouse click state is down. It doesn't matter if it's the first frame or the last frame or anything in
Yep.
between, right? So if we use the same terminology for the mouse, then I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I feel good about that. This.held.delete. And then
I think I would recommend that you actually rename down to held.
well, it's about to be the same thing. Just that we just need to
Where do we read out of the
clear.
state? Where is there a of like a getter?
That.
Yeah, so I would recommend right now renaming is down to is held, because that's the logic that everything else relies on right now. Like rename that function is down.
Gotcha. I guess I was just about to have all this stuff do the right
Yeah,
thing.
but you have to go through all the other code that's calling is down currently and change their semantic. So
yeah, sorry, that's a great point.
Yeah.
We got an easier rename. Yeah, you're totally right. I was gonna do this the silly way.
Perfect. That's all.
Right.
That was all I was asking for. Yeah, because the semantic is changing.
You're totally right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I had those steps in my head, and I was just going to go and do them by hand, but that was much faster. Thank you. And then yeah, so we brought over the pattern from the keyboard where we just are clearing down and up every time, but held is the set.
Yep.
That continues to exist. Okay, cool. That's great. Oh, and when we focus out, we have to do held and down are cleared now. Cool. Oh, well, that's going to be pretty easy for this then.
Yeah. You might want to do a save all. It looks like you got a couple of different files that are open right now that are.
Oh, I was like trying to figure out. I was like, why is this file diffed? And it's because we just did that find replace. Yeah. Is held. Yep. Fire pressed is mouse dot is down.
How about fire down rather than fire pressed? Just so the language is all consistent.
Yeah, I was gonna say what if, I'm trying to think if we could put this into state or something, but no, you're right. We haven't exposed the mouse interface a lot, or keyboard interface in this sort of place. This becomes fire down. No, this is fire held.
Nice.
Yeah, we haven't. I feel like the keyboard or the input abstraction hasn't really leaked into this yet, but that's not the worst one. This feels pretty reasonable. Why is my mouse not like is down? Hi, mouse. Of course. Cool. All right, so
that's fire held. Yeah.
That's fire held. Cool, and then let's. And of course the rocket's still doing that, but not for long. Cool. Fire held.
I bet we can. This is a thing where it could be like, you know how you like making tables with settings in the tables?
You talking about me specifically, or me, or the royal me? Because yeah, I do like doing that. I was gonna say, where is our bullet config? Find all my record.
This is one
types.
where you can say, like, does the bullet care about being held or being down, and what is the gap between each of the shots?
Yep, that sounds right. So I guess I think we'll just add one of these bullet record types to this as well, like we did for the color.
Yeah.
But this is going to be firing mode, and it's record bullet type. And what keys do we care about? We care about cooldown. It's a number. and we care about
kind of
this is
a
not-
two value enum. Like, do you care about held or down, or even up?
And
I don't know if like we'll ever get to that, but
possibly, yeah. Do you think is it an enum and you can have one value, or can you have both values? Both values doesn't make sense.
I think it's one value that's an enum. Either
Yep.
you care about held or you care about down, or yeah, exactly.
Down, yeah. Cool. So our cooldown is
15, I think what we said.
oh, is this in frames? Great.
Is
That
it
checks
frames? I don't even remember.
We'll find out.
I think it's milliseconds actually.
Oh, TTL last fired frame.
Oh, it's
frames,
frames.
'cause we
It's
count
frame counts.
frames.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Cool. And then what is the last fire? And 15. Great. Sick. And then mode is down. No, mode is held. Mode is down.
Yeah.
You don't like it? We got bullet type. Comma. No. That looks right. What's the error? Firing information. Oh.
Is it just because we
is this
never
really
refer
just
to it?
I wish it didn't pick the whole type signature for that. Yeah, I think it is. Shooter.last fired frame is greater than firing information of
Shooter dot
What do we
bullet
have?
type, I think.
shooter.bullet type. Yeah. Cooldown. Happy? Happy. Cool.
That's just the
Insert
formatting
dot.
thing. I don't know why it's called.
Oh, it's having some issues. Can't decide. Okay. Well,
we could express that in a separate Boolean because it is getting kind of complicated.
as I say, I can also is well, I'm just gonna say
Cooldown
is
elapsed.
this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then const cooldown elapsed. Yeah. Yep. Cool. And then we'll just do the same thing for const can fire equals message attack dot. Let's see, we'll need top mode. Would be nice if this value was the same, but maybe we'll just make a switch.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Case held. Return or can fire equals message dot attack dot fire held. Break. And case down is the same thing.
You're missing a colon.
Oh, yep. Not the semi variety. Cool. Oh, and it's never used. Sure. If can fire.
Not can fire.
Oh, right. This is the negation. Cool. Okay. Is that the definition of shotgunning? So that seems to work. And if I switch, oh yeah. Yeah, that's really cool.
How's it feel?
Feels good. 15 milliseconds or 15 frames feels very slow is what it is. But maybe more like 18, slightly slower than bullets. Yeah, that's shotgun. This is a lot harder to use now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, if you can click twice a second, maybe you're fine. Or three times a second, because I don't think I can. Yeah, it's a tough one. No, I can click that fast. 18 was better. Or 18 was harder. Cool. All right, we got some shotguns.
Nice.
Yeah. Uh, and once again, I'm happy because, yeah, we've composed it out of a strange record type that I really like.
Nice. I think the elapsed might be the reverse semantic. Can we take a look at the word where we use the word elapsed again?
Can can we? Did I even spell it right? I did.
Yeah, I think
Great.
I think elapsed is actually if
This
it's
is
greater than or
cooldown
equal to
active.
cooldown. So
Yeah.
or cooling down. Maybe we can
Cooling down?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then actually, could we actually pull that shooter dot last frame fire not equals -1 and put that into the expression for cooling down?
Hmm.
Yeah, that reads really nicely now, right? That if statement. If it can't fire, or
Or it's cooling down.
what
Yeah.
if we call can fire like shot requested or shot triggered or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like maybe fire triggered because
Okay.
we're looking at these like fire held, fire
Okay.
down. If fire triggered or cooling down. Yeah.
So line 101 now reads really cleanly, right? If it's not the firing hasn't been triggered, obviously you do nothing. If it's still cooling down,
Hmm.
obviously you do nothing, right?
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the thing I like, I thought it was going to be a problem that we don't reset last fire framed when the weapon changes, but I actually think it maybe makes sense to apply the cooldown of the next gun based on the last time you fired the previous gun
Yeah, you could cheese it otherwise. You could swap really fast
to reset it, right?
to reset. Yeah. Huh. I'm in a horrible thing where the mouse got stuck down. Oh, wait.
Yeah, if you click it up and
The
down again,
I'm not holding it.
yeah, I think it's a focus thing.
But if I click once, I'm in permanent fire mode.
That maybe that's a mouse bug.
Yeah, as I said, that probably. Mm, mm. Let's see, mouse up, mouse down. Let me shift reload too and see if
Oh,
I.
it's line 34. This dot held dot has. This is another
Oh,
location where we should have done a rename rather than a.
yeah, much better. Cool, 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 cool. It was working perfectly for the rocket because this was not an important part of that event.
Right.
Yeah, cool, nice.
It's feeling pretty good, right?
It's pretty neat. Yeah, I like this a lot. These rockets are oomphy. Yeah, actually, I'm craving maybe more visual distinction now.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm having trouble keeping track of my rocket fires, which is interesting. So yeah, we can do
Rockets
something
maybe
about that
need
though.
like a contrail line or something like that. Like a
Yeah, it's what I was trying
streak.
to do with the smoke. The smoke's not quite it though. I think you're absolutely right that it needs a little something else. Maybe debug mode off would help too. Maybe not.
What I love about the rocket, and this is actually true of
Hmm.
any shot that we do, but I love that I can like target something with the mouse and then drive away, but the thing that I targeted
Yeah.
still gets hit. You know what I mean?
Hmm. But if this were multiplayer, I bet it'd be really hard to hit with a rocket, which is even better
That's kind of what we
because
want, right? Because it does so much damage.
Yeah, it really punches you.
Did the game just
Yeah,
freeze?
whereas this is just click to destroy turrets.
Oh, it just got
Oh,
super choppy over here. It looks like the game froze, but I think it was just our network having issues.
no,
Can we try
that
playing
sucks.
multiplayer?
No, well, maybe I was just putting. Yeah, you want to do it? Hang on, I got all these turrets. Okay.
I
Yeah,
think Ngrok makes it
let's
really
do
slow.
that.
I want to get you on Cloud Dev eventually, because it's way faster for both
Yeah,
talking to
sorry,
the same
it's
server.
that it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's my lazy shame. Yeah, you are correct. Yeah, Ngrok. This is not what Ngrok is for. But let's see how we do.
Cool.
Oh, wait, I gotta switch to subdomain. Subdomain Jeff Dom. All right, so Jeff and
I'm gonna go to Chrome too.
cool.
Leave nothing to chance. Oh, and we need to change the number of players in the constants. Did that
I
already happen?
changed the number of players. Oh, I did, yeah. Let me turn off this build version check. Where is that? Build version.
You're talking about the hot reload?
Is there a way to turn off polling?
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
is
the
there a quick
client
way to turn off
main,
polling?
in client main,
Mm-hmm.
it's like at the very bottom, I want to say. Poll, just comment that out. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Just gonna restart a little bit of everything. All right. Hit the server again. Give it a full refresh.
I'm in.
Okay.
Oh, it's so choppy.
I'm waiting. Wow, this sucks. What did we do? Oh, it got a little better, but huh. What happened?
This is actually.
I like it. Yeah.
It would actually be good for us to try to debug this either on stream or off stream whenever you have the time, because I'd like to know why this is so slow and choppy. And I'm not able to reproduce it when I do Cloud Dev and open two browsers. It's just buttery smooth for both.
Okay.
But there's clearly something weird going on.
If you have Cloud Dev really available, yeah, do you want to? I was going to say, I can push this code up. Do you want to turn on the Cloud Dev server real quick?
I can't because I'm in Windows right now.
Ah, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, that was real choppy.
Yeah.
Great. Well, wait, I should turn Ngrok back on for us then. Sorry.
There's no reason why it should be. I think we just have like a weird bug in the networking code. There's no reason why it should be that slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
We might be able to simulate it somehow by introducing fake latency somewhere, but I don't know where to stick that. Right.
Mm-hmm. Refresh your page again. Pop back in. It's weak.
This is way better right now. What did you change?
This is way better. I changed. I restarted Ngrok, so maybe maybe like Ngrok just has different performance profiles based on the connection you get.
Yeah.
If you're not able to reproduce it with Cloud Dev, that's a much better story for me.
Oh, the hell just happened? Like the window jumped into OBS, and now Okay, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's getting choppy again.
It's getting choppy. It's still better than that first one. So
yeah, it's way better than the first one.
I'm willing to blame Ngrok for a lot of this bullshit. Because I actually feel like I'm playing the game with you now, which is nice.
I'm also going to turn off debug draw.
I turned it off and it got better, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. These explosions look great. Yeah, I'm not waiting for server except when debug draw is on. Maybe we should set a thing where if the number of players is greater than 1, we turn off debug draw when we start the game. I feel like we've
or we can just turn off
debug
draw in general. Do we need it? It gives us a false
Maybe
sense
not.
of it gives us a false sense of aesthetics, right?
Yeah, that's true. I would actually put the grid in here on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, great point. All right, well, I'm trying to hit you with the rockets, but pretty hard to aim. Oh, yeah.
The rocket emitter, the muzzle flare emitter is still not quite right.
You don't, yeah?
It almost needs to be an animation rather than a particle emitter because it's like if you just shoot and then move upwards, it kind of like drags the spray. I don't know. Is
Yeah.
that the effect that you expect?
That's what I expected from what we just did,
Okay.
but it's a little weird, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like this one. So I don't think the orientation of muzzle flare should be affected by what happened. The only position should. Uh,
I think that's what I'm
c-
seeing. Yep.
yeah, and we did specifically do orientation on
The
this one.
orientation needs to be preserved.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna look weird otherwise. I totally agree.
Which
Or rather,
almost
it does look
leads
weird.
me to believe that what we should do is have a separate entity called muzzle flare that
Oh, yeah.
gets created with a reference to the shooter that created it,
Hmm.
or even the player number that created it, so you can follow the position. There's a muzzle flare system that synchronizes the position, but it doesn't synchronize the orientation. It retains its original orientation, right?
That seems right. Yeah.
Although
Okay.
what's going to be weird though is you're going to see. Well, no, the muzzle flare is always going to be like attached
It's
to the nose. So
yeah. I
like
guess
its
if
origin
you were
point
shoot
needs to like stay there, but the orientation, I don't know. Like we would have to play with it a little bit.
yeah, I guess if you were shooting the gun and if you swung it while you shot a bullet, I guess the smoke actually would track with the gun, right? If there was
It
still smoke
would,
coming out of
yeah.
the muzzle,
Actually,
it
I
would
guess
still
we're
be coming out the muzzle.
it's physically
Correct.
accurate right now.
Yeah.
It's just that maybe the particle emitter itself just needs to be adjusted because it's kind of fizzy, and it's always been
I
fizzy.
think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this dog is sneezing, uh, which I think we can do a little bit. But yeah. I see what you're saying. I mean, this looks worlds better than where we were before, though.
It
Like
is.
leaving
It's
them
way
behind
better.
also
Yeah.
felt really weird. Yeah. Nice. Ugh. All right, shotgun day.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I'm almost dead. I took a bunch of rockets. I'm glad these rockets do a lot more damage too. It's just fun. There's almost nothing left on the battlefield.
Yeah. Oh, you're hidden. That was cool.
Yeah, where'd I go? Ah, shit. By the way, we missed it, but last week was our 1 year stream. So congratulations. We did it for a year.
Oh, I killed you.
got it.
Yes. Nice. And that's how I'll celebrate it by killing you with a rocket.
Yeah. It made some fireworks.
Wonderful.
Did your game crash? My game crashed.
I think as soon as someone dies, it crashes.
Yeah.
Just like the
Cool.
server crashes.
The server
Maybe
totally.
there's a lot we can do gameplay wise.
Yeah, it might be time to let players eat it and then keep going.
Yeah, we don't have any like game lifecycle management right now.
We do not.
Yeah.
Ah, man, this is great. That felt really good.
It felt really good. Yeah. The fact that multiplayer at least kind of works is still amazing to me. Still
It's
stunning.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, it's neat.
You waiting for me?
Just put the game back up on the
Okay.
screen.
Yeah.
No other particular reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Turning debug draw off definitely does look
It
way better.
it really helps. Yeah. And if it's that much better with Cloud Dev versus ngrok, that's really great. And I can absolutely imagine why it would be.
Yeah.
Proxying this through some rando free, not free, but like it's also not meant to be performance infrastructure.
I think the rockets need more range.
They do. They absolutely do. Yeah, I want like 1.5 times as much.
Yeah.
They need to. There's no explosion when you hit the player, huh?
There's like a
There,
there's like the same explosion that when we hit anything.
oh yeah. It looks. You know what? It looks a lot better against black. On the hitting the dog looks kind of nothingy.
Well, it's also because the dog isn't dying, right? Remember the object destruction is like a giant emitter.
That's right. The object description looks really good.
And right
That's
now
what
we
it
can
is.
destroy every object with one hit except for the dog.
Except the dog.
Yeah.
Yep. Fair enough.
So now we're
Uh,
just like in the infinite tuning realm of game feel, which is a black hole of game development if there ever was one.
yeah, but that's what
There
I'm
there
talking
are, there
about.
there are
I like
many layers of black holes. There's the black hole of programming over engineering. There's a black hole of infinite tweaking of emitters and game feel. There's the black hole of the game crashing, which I did on
Oh, yeah,
myself.
sorry. I put it down to one player and I think it
No
ate it.
worries. No worries at
Yeah.
all.
I'm just gonna. It's because I was gonna commit all this.
Nice.
Is this 85? No, 86. Gosh, man. 86. Shotguns.
Doesn't 86
Rocket
mean to sink a
shotguns.
ship? 86 'em? Is that
86 and is just 86 to 86. I don't know. It's a verb.
to get rid
I
of?
bet it's maritime. Everything weird is maritime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nautical term.
All right. Git push origin main. All right, dude. Well done. Oh, we didn't find the reason for 86. I'm sorry. Restaurants and bars. It's a food term?
To kill,
Rhyming
to
slang
murder,
for
to
Knicks?
execute judicially.
Yeah.
The 20s and 30s.
The answer seems like nonsense.
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
I don't buy any of it. I don't like it.
Nope, but I do like this sweet doggo and this rocket that's just forever firing.
Oh, so the smoke shoots upwards, and any sense of forward
The
motion
smoke has
comes
zero-
from the... Yeah, got it.
Yeah, the smoke has 0 speed, full negative gravity.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which like kind of works. Looks a little weird though.
The fact that gravity can go negative is nice. I never thought of using it, but smoke is a perfect...
Oh, yeah, you were the one who put it in there, so hell yeah.
Probably should just be constant velocity upwards, but if you do whatever you need, right?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because like we have speed. We don't have directional velocity, right? We have spread and we have speed based on the orientation of the emitter. But this felt like gravity to me. It felt like the right physics simulation. So
Yeah.
TV,
As long as it
TV.
looks good.
It does. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Looks like a little campfire. Sweet. Well, happy Monday.
Yep.
I feel a
same
lot
to
more
you.
awake than when we started the stream, which is always a good sign.
Yeah. All right, man. I will see you next time.
All right. See you Thursday.